Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world you are, to all of our guests on the line today. We have a jam-packed session ahead of us, but don't worry. About halfway through, we'll take a scheduled but short snack and comfort break. My name is Andrea Perkins. I work at Headquarters Air Force in the Airmen and Family Care Division, and I'll be your MC for today's event. Our theme for today is Be Well and promoting help-seeking behavior for overall wellness in mind, body, and wallet. We're on the heels of a pandemic that changed how we do business personally, professionally, as a society. Today, we'll look at what wellness looks like in a post or nearly post-pandemic world. The goal is to get you thinking about how you can be well and equip you with information and resources that will assist you and the airmen, guardians, and families you serve to stay well or where to get help when needed. In order to address the multiple dimensions of wellness, we asked experts from across several areas to be with us and provide tools from across the spectrum. But before we get started, we are honored to have with us today Mrs. Sharene Brown, spouse to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General C.Q. Brown, and Mrs. Jennifer Saltzman, spouse to the Chief of Space Operations, General Chance Saltzman. Mrs. Brown, thank you for championing today's event. I will now turn it over to you for opening comments.
Well, thanks, Andrea. That was wonderful. Thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedules. Yes, I know they're quite busy, to join us for another session with our KeySpouse engagement series. I so enjoy the time we get to spend together in these engagements because I am also learning something new. Our team at A1S and Air Force Personnel Center, or AFPC, always do an incredible job at coordinating these events, and I am grateful for their hard work, time, and effort. I'm quite sure this will be a great one as well. So be well in body, mind, and wallet is the theme for today. Overall wellness is such an important topic, and we can all use some tips on improving our wellness and making it a priority in our lives, especially this time of year. Our Air and Space Force families are resilient, but our way of life can bring tough challenges and stress, as you well know. With the current economic situation and the holiday season fast approaching, these stressors can quickly intensify. So our goal here today is to help better prepare yourself and the families you support for optimal wellness in the coming months. As we listen to our experts today, please think about areas in your life where you've had success when it comes to wellness. And I encourage you to share those success stories. We can benefit greatly from each other's knowledge and experience. Being resilient doesn't mean we are always perfect. Sometimes we just need a little help. I'd like to thank our panelists and speakers on the line with us today for your willingness to share your expertise in mind, body, and wallet wellness. I'd also like to say we have an extra special engagement because we get to welcome Mrs. Jennifer Saltzman. Mrs. Saltzman has been the new Chief of Space Operations spouse for less than a week. So let's put our Zoom hands together as I turn the mic over to her. Jennifer?
Hi, guys. Hi, Mrs. Brown. Thank you very, very much for the kind introduction. Yes, this is definitely a whole new, exciting world for me. Less than a week with this wonderful opportunity, and I really appreciate you guys inviting me to share and learn how everyone across the DAF is going to teach us new strategies and techniques to take care of ourselves, most importantly, and our families. Been a military spouse for 30 years, and I think we've PCS'd 17 times, I believe. So we all know that drill, but absolutely super appreciate all of the experts and everyone that's here joining us tonight online, sharing new practices and techniques that we can all, maybe make this a little bit easier. I'm very honored to also be with all of the family members that are on and key spouses. I look forward to hearing all the stories and just absolutely being willing to to learn about being well. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very, very much. And we've got a jam-packed, awesome session that Andrea and team has all set up. So take it away.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Saltzman. We appreciate your leadership in bringing connection to our spouses to ultimately impact the readiness and resilience of our Airmen Guardians and their families. All right, now for a few administrative notes on this engagement. We'll closely monitor the chat feature throughout our time together. Please utilize it to engage with the session and with each other. We'll answer as many questions as we possibly can over the next 2 hours, take notes on the questions we don't get to, and send responses out after the event. AFPC.af.mil is a treasure trove of information for this event and all things KeySpouse related. The actual link will be shared in the chat. For those of you on the phone, it's easy to find by Googling AFPC KeySpouse. By early next week, we'll post the recording of this event, the slides, and all the Q&A. We'll also send an email to the account with which you registered to let you know it's been posted with the link to access it. All right, what's on the agenda? Today, we'll begin with a 49-minute wellness panel, followed by a 6-minute break. We'll pick back up with 2 speakers on financial readiness and well-being, and then conclude with a 22-minute KeySpouse Best Practices panel before closing comments. Yes, we tried to be very precise with timing to pack in as much information as possible. Lastly, we ask that you keep your mics and cameras off for the duration of the event. The next sessions will have the panelists that you see on the screen. So we really want to make sure everybody can see them as we move through this. But please do use the chat feature for any questions that you may have, and we'll answer those live. Transitioning into our first panel, it features experts from organizations that promote well-being in various ways. You can find their bios by checking the email you registered for today's event with, or dive right into that treasure trove at AFPC's KeySpouse website that we mentioned earlier. We're going to do a lightning round of introductions. So if everybody but the panelists could turn off their cameras, at least for this time, and then everyone can just do the view that best suits them so that they can see the panelists. We're going to do about a 45-second for each of our teammates. So we're going to start with Air Force resiliency to begin lightning round introductions. Dr. Perkins, can you kick us off with intros?
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. What a wonderful honor it is to be speaking with you all tonight. My name is Janelle Perkins. I am the Senior Policy Analyst for the Integrated Resilient Office here at Headquarters Air Force, where we do all things primary prevention and integrated resilience. So I'm looking forward to this wonderful panel tonight. Thank you so much.
Sergeant Anthony.
Good evening, everyone. Master Sergeant Anthony. I am the Strategic Partnership Division Outreach Program Manager at Headquarters Air Force Integrated Resilience. I also am the lead facilitator for the DAF Community Action Team here at the Pentagon. I am happy to be here with you, and it is an honor, and look forward to engaging with you through this panel.
Thank you so much. Chaplain Merrifield.
Good evening, everyone. So thankful to be part of this panel tonight. I'm currently assigned to the Office of our Chief of Chaplains. I work in plans and programs, and in particular, I focus a lot of my time and energy on resilience and spiritual fitness. So once again, thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, sir. Colonel Callender.
Hey, good evening. This is Colonel Catherine Callender. I'm a psychologist by training, and I currently work as the Deputy Director for Psychological Health for the Air Force Medical Readiness Agency. And I just want to say it really is a privilege to be here with you, and I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you this evening. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Colonel Snyder.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Tracy Snyder. I'm a registered dietitian. I work with Lieutenant Colonel Callender at Defense Health Headquarters. Also nutrition consultant with the Surgeon General, and I'm also the Chief of Air Force Health Promotions. I'm excited about this opportunity, so thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ms. Smith?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time and making the space to join this evening's event. My name is Kelly Smith, and I serve as the Program Manager for Military OneSource and one of the Associate Directors for Military Community Support Programs within the Office of Secretary of Defense.
Thank you, ma'am. And Miss Eldana?
Good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever everyone's coming from. My name is Michelle Aldana. I get to work with Kelly Smith at Military Community and Family Policy with the Military Community Support Programs. I'm a program analyst, and it's really great to see some familiar Air Force faces on here, and I'm excited to be able to speak with everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, panelists, for your very, very speedy speed round intros and for taking the time to share your expertise with us this evening. First question is mental health, wellness, resiliency. It's all kind of intertwined and multidimensional. This fall, our resiliency teammates finalized efforts they championed that will help us frame this discussion. Dr. Perkins and Master Sergeant Anthony, could you please introduce us all to the spectrum of resilience?
Absolutely. Again, thank you, everyone. Master Sergeant Anthony here from the Integrated Resilience Office. So the spectrum of resilience. On 23 September, the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, General Brown, and Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Bass, signed an open letter to our airmen and their families and released a graphic that you are seeing right here, the spectrum of resilience. You can download a copy of this letter and this graphic through our website at resilience.af.mil. The Space Force is still new and are still establishing their programs and resources. And while this graphic and letter are addressed to our airmen, the spectrum of resilience does apply to both our airmen, guardians, and their families. The spectrum of resilience. The spectrum of resilience represents the many sources of support airmen and guardians and their families can turn to during their time of need. There are 5 levels of the spectrum of resilience. The attached graphic is not an all-inclusive, but it represents the spectrum of care that is available at each level. Starting with the individual for dealing with stress, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual fitness, finance, and well-being. It then goes over to close relationships with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. And then the next level jumps over to our peer and social connections. This includes the various groups, clubs, and organizations and social networks an individual may be a part of. This level of care can also include our co-workers and our frontline leaders that can be available for additional guidance. The next level that we look at is the support entities. These are the various volunteers and prevention personnel in the wings that provide programs and educational services to promote resilience. The last level of the spectrum of care is our clinical and medical health level, where individuals seek clinical professionals that can provide care and crisis intervention. Altogether, this spectrum of support provides the highest quality of care and strength whenever it is needed. Engaging early with the spectrum of resilience supports a healthy mind, body, and strength and the ability to cope with stress. We encourage airmen and guardians and their families to seek out help they need at the right level and be a support, a help, or a bridge for others to cross that full spectrum of resilience. Leadership is one of our greatest assets for a resilient and ready force. So we are equipping our leaders to foster a healthy climate by connecting with their airmen and guardians, setting the right example, providing guidance, and knowing the resources exist for their people. If you have any questions about this spectrum of resilience, I ask that you please put them in the comments or put your comments in the chat so we have integrated resilience teammates standing by to answer your questions. That is our new spectrum of resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Master Sergeant Anthony. Really appreciate you sharing this new tool with us. As you see on the line, we have, I think, most of these sections here with us today. Your own self. Hopefully you have friends from across the Air Force that are joining on to talk with us today. And that's also the social connection. And then, of course, our support entities that we'll hear more from throughout our session. So thank you for sharing that great resource. And we did post a link to that in the chat. So check that out. Remember, if you have any questions for our panelists, even if it doesn't directly relate to what we're talking about, please pop it in the chat. We'll make sure that we respond to all of the questions, even if we don't have the appropriate POC today, and get the responses back to you. So any resilience related questions, now's your time. Pop those answers in the chat and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can. On to our next question. We are on the heels of a pandemic, hopefully, right? We're all trying to establish a new normal. Can you please share your thoughts on what the new normal for wellness looks like in your prospective organizations? Ms. Saldana, if you could start us off with that thought.
Thank you so much. I think the pandemic has been something that we've all had to adjust with and make those pivots to do whatever's best for us and let us be our best versions of ourselves. And within Military OneSource, our top 3 reasons that people call Military OneSource has remained steady. You know, most people call Military OneSource for relationship issue or non-medical counseling, and most people seek non-medical counseling because of relationships. And then they also contact us for financial counseling, meal tax, and then you have the spouse education, career opportunities program. And those 3 reasons have stayed the same over the time of the pandemic, but we have increased our ability to see people by video. So there's been a huge increase in video sessions for non-medical counseling. We've been able to do telephonically and chat. And so it's really, as most of us will probably share, is just being able to shift to that virtual way to provide support, which just gave us an opportunity to strengthen those things because, you know, lots of people like to move in that direction to have things virtually. And we're able to provide and strengthen those different areas of support over that time in all of our services as well. And we just have a lot of wonderful range of services, which hopefully you'll share that chart later. But it's just great to be able to have. And then you see how resilient people are. And I think it's really nice to be able to see people still seeking help and wanting to be their best versions of themselves.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. We will show your chart up. I think it's the last question. We have it ready on cue for you. Ms. Smith, any thoughts on what the new wellness looks like in your area, new normal for wellness?
You know, I really like this question because the term new normal can mean anything to anyone. It really depends on that person's perspective. And that to me really ties in closely with what the Military and Family Life Counseling program is there to do. For those of you that may not be familiar, the Military and Family Life Counseling program, also known as the MFLAC program, provides non-medical counseling support to airmen and their families around the world. What they're most known for is providing non-medical counseling, or what layman terms would be is just regular counseling where you are. So if you have challenges with military life, the everyday military life stresses, whether it's issues within your relationship or challenges in your relationship, dealing with everyday life stressors, dealing with grief and loss, stress management, anger management, parenting, that is what our MFLACs are there to provide support around. And the thing about the MFLACs that I think really is the hallmark of the services that they provide is that they are confidential and they meet our airmen and families where they are. So if you want to have a session, you know, at the park with your children, the MFLAC can meet you there. If you want to be at the Family Service Center, they can meet you there. If they are embedded within the unit where your service member may be, they can meet you there as well. But something that I think is a new normal for our MFLAC program is that the services typically are face-to-face. But what has been new, or what we had to shift to do really quickly when the pandemic hit, was provide those services virtually. And this is something that Ms. Aldana just spoke to, but I think what the MFLACs are known for is doing that face-to-face. And so having to make that pivot was huge for our team, but we wanted to continue ensuring that families are receiving their support that they needed. And even though we are, 2.5 years, 5 years, it feels like it's been so many years that we've been in this space, but they're still offering that virtual support as needed for families that may not be comfortable or may not be able to have that face-to-face support. So they are able to still provide that virtual telehealth counseling. But I think that is probably, I would say, is the new normal for how we're providing our non-medical counseling through the military and family life counseling program.
Thank you so much for sharing, ma'am. Who's next? Colonel Callender?
Yeah, well, good evening again. So I will tell you one thing we learned from COVID. It really just validated, I think, for us as mental health providers, that we really have to help people find alternative ways to cope. So as you might imagine, prior to COVID, if your primary mechanism for dealing with stress was to go for a walk or to work out or to be with people and socialize, in person, that really became constrained in the COVID environment. And it left some people with challenges coping, more so than they would ordinarily have. And so we did see new cases of depression, anxiety, stress, those types of things arise and start coming into the clinic on a more frequent basis. So again, from a mental health provider standpoint, I think it's really taught us that we have got to help people have flexibility in how they cope, because sometimes those methodologies are taken away under these extreme type of circumstances like a pandemic. The other thing is that I think really it was a benefit from the mental health standpoint, is it taught us the value and the ease actually with which we can utilize telebehavioral health services. Much like the MFLAC services, I've gone to a virtual environment. There's been many ways where we were able to convert mental health services over to that virtual platform as well. And as you might imagine, if you're a busy work-at-home mom and you've got kids and a million other things to negotiate, being able to have a telehealth appointment versus having to leave home, find childcare, and those types of things is going to be far more easy than if you have to leave for a traditional appointment. And so we definitely have learned the value of that and are continuing to try to expand those capabilities throughout the Defense Health Agency and throughout the services as well. One of the things I think we're still trying to get a grasp of is just how much COVID has impacted increases in depression, anxiety, and stress. We definitely probably are seeing more cases of it. But again, I think what we're learning and the accessibility of mental health care through telebehavioral health and other services is definitely helping with that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let's hear from Lieutenant Colonel Snyder, which I think the majority of you should be paying attention to, because she has like a lot of the physical pieces that y'all mentioned in the opening Zoom poll that was most challenging for you to maintain your wellness. So Lieutenant Colonel Snyder, enlighten us.
I will do my best. And I will say the biggest shift that we really saw with the pandemic is what we're hearing, this shift towards focusing on wellness and prevention. We realized, just simply from the pandemic, the impact that our lifestyle has on our risk for, not just COVID, but other disease states. And then those that, had these pre-existing conditions, the increased risk. And so I think it really put overall wellness in a new perspective, and wellness, not just, from the sense of, we focus on the physical impacts, but the mental impacts and the other pieces to that. And so, as a dietitian, I've seen definitely a shift in individuals that are interested more in really focusing on the quality of their diet and using food and exercise as medicine, really taking the lifestyle approach to making changes. And you know, as we saw from the beginning poll, that's definitely something that's very challenging. And I think we can all, you know, even myself, you know, tonight trying to think, okay, how am I going to plan to, you know, get dinner and do X, Y, and Z so that I can, you know, be on this call. And so if you see me slipping French fries underneath the chair to my dog, it's all good. She just likes to lay under my desk. But it's definitely a challenge that I know that we all can relate to, because life is busy, and really our main goal and what we try to do in the realm of health promotion is implement policy or processes or programs that help to make the right choice the easy choice, or the healthy choice the easy choice. And so it really takes the work of all of us, you know, collaboratively to really influence that and get where we need to be. But thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. It especially hit home to me when you said use food as medicine, which is likely not the same as coping mechanism, which I think I'm probably in good company with those on the line who did use food to make me feel better at the beginning of the pandemic. But I'll save my inputs for the chat to share when we go into the break. But thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Snyder. Last but not least on this question, Lieutenant Colonel Merrifield, tell us about the new normal from your perspective.
Well, I think Ben and Jerry's stock went up because of our family's consumption of that ice cream brand during that time. I hope that's not our new normal for years to come, but it was good while it lasted. Well, I would say overwhelmingly it became evident that our airmen, guardians, and their families need connection and community to thrive. And long-term isolation, it's not healthy. And we saw that it led to many times helplessness, even hopelessness. And so I hope our new chaplain corps normal is taking care of airmen, guardians, and their families more than anyone ever thought possible. And so to do that, we have tried a few changes along the way. We've used technology, you know, using virtual platforms to do some of our telecounsel and things like that. But I'm going to be the devil's advocate on this one and say that we realize, like never before, that it's vital to not neglect the need for physical presence. And I believe human beings were designed for community. And so thus the Chaplain Corps gathers people of like faith to worship together, or if they're not people of faith, gathers people of like values and virtues into community to have meaningful connection and shared purpose. And one of our demographics of people seeking assistance that was on the increase and still, I believe, is impacted by the fallout of COVID-19 is our teens. The isolation lockdown as a response really left our teens disconnected and struggling. And I'm speaking not only from a pastor chaplain standpoint, but as a father of two teenagers that really had a tough time during that. And I thought that generation would be the ones that best survived in virtual world, to be honest. They grew up with it. But as I see it playing out, teens for the most part need that connection and community in person, unique ways, as they're going through all the stuff that teens go through as they grow up. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys on this topic.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for all of our panelists. I'm interested on that teen input there. And I'm interested to know, this is off scripting, guys, but I'm interested to know if you have seen anything on the rise for teens in your perspective areas. Yes, no, maybe so. Okay.
Oh, I can share. I was going to say, we have been able to, within military one source for non-medical counseling, can see teens in virtually, because I know some people didn't know, like, can we do this? And if you're 13 to 17, teens can go on there and just talk to someone. It might just be like, hey, Juliana, let's learn how to communicate. Say, hey, how are you? I know when I was working in Massau, I'd meet lots of brand new airmen that, you know, shared that they were lonely, and we asked why. And I had a lot of them just kind of tell us like, well, Miss Michelle, I don't know what to say after I say, hey, how are you? And then they just stare at me. I was like, oh, don't stare into my soul. But we can practice this. We can do this. And so I think it's really important to encourage our teens to talk to someone, practice those communication skills, whether that's non-medical counseling, and we have wellness counselors. And then we even have the opportunity for our non-medical counseling. If you're 6 to 12, you can be with your family and do a video session as well. Because sometimes some people think they might be too little, but everyone's trying to learn how to be social and communicate. And it's really important that we reinforce that throughout and acknowledge, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Even all of us who thought we had all the skills. What do you say after, hey, how are you? You know, those kind of things. So being able to help people out. So I think we have a lot of people that are needing to know how to do that with each other and in their relationships and just be able to help with that communication.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, ma'am. And I see that there's some resources posted in the chat as well. So please do, if you have something to contribute besides questions in the chat, please share. That's what we're all here to learn from each other. And we kind of started with Miss Aldana talking about the non-medical counseling to kind of transition us into this next question, because when we think about mental health, we often think about organizations like Military One Source, Military Family Life Counselors, and of course, mental health. But how can the chapel and health promotions specifically help to support mental wellness? Do you have any thoughts on that, Chaplain Merrifield?
Oh, yes, I always have thoughts. So I'm going to share a few of them on this. As many of you know, the Chaplain Corps really tries its best to meet people where they're at, whether they're religious or non-religious. That's not a factor. And to that point, we've embedded our religious support teams inside the units and deltas now, working hand in hand with mental health, MOS, and MFLAC, among other agencies. And the Chaplain Corps has been doing that for a long time, but now to come alongside with helping agencies in the unit, I believe it's making a big impact. And in addition to this, the Chaplain Corps has really developed multiple initiatives that help, what I believe, develop a fulfilling life, increased quality of service, centered around really beliefs and virtues and values. And I want to talk just for 30 seconds on the storms of life. I like to say many of us from this room right now are in a storm in this virtual room. Some just came out of one. If you've not come out of one, or if you're not in one, you may be going into one. And so to have those resources to build and fortify that reliable foundation before you hit the storm is super important. And so we're trying to put that underneath our warfighters and their families to really help ensure resilience in and through those storms of life. And so I just want to share that with you today.
Thank you so much, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Snyder, thoughts from you on how your team at Health Promotions can impact mental wellness as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when we think about overall wellness, nutrition really at the foundation of, meeting our basic physiological needs and maintaining that. And so with our health promotion, really maintaining that fitness, eating a healthy diet, sleep, which is one of the key focus areas and one that we probably all struggle with at one time or another, but really we know that, that chronic fatigue and the impacts that has on our resilience and our mental health. And so really focusing on those areas, helping to contribute and really support and collaborate with those other helping agencies to get in and help build those social connections that strengthen overall mental wellness.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Appreciate you sharing about that social piece too, and how you too can connect and help people with mental wellness and well-being, even though kind of your focus area maybe is spiritual or physical. It all intertwines, as we kind of started talking at in the beginning. Looks like we have time for one more question, and this is for everyone on the panel. Could you please tell us about some recent initiatives or perhaps some lesser known opportunities or resources that we could use to establish or maintain wellness? And this time we'll start with Dr. Perkins.
Wow, well, thank you. So I want to just make sure that we understand when we're talking wellness and resilience, that we understand what we're talking about, right? So one of the recent things happening in our office is just to help us understand the difference between actual wellness and actual
Technical difficulties. Sergeant Anthony, yeah, you want to
I
jump in
am,
while she comes back?
yes. Well, I am not Dr. Perkins, and I don't know exactly what she was going to say to you, but I think that if I could sum it up really quickly in like 10 seconds or not, like when we look at well-being, well-being is a state of being. How are you now? How are you doing? When we look at resilience, it's a measure by the change in your state and how you deal with the ups and downs of life. So again, out there on our resilience.af.mil website, we have a lot of information and resources out there for all of our airmen guardians, their families, the key spouses that you can utilize that will help you in your journey of increasing your well-being as well as improving your overall resilience.
Thank you, sir. I was looking at your website today and it really is very user friendly. So please do reach out to that website. We can pop it in the chat here momentarily if we haven't already, and you can check it out and see all of the resources right there at your fingertips. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, yes, sir, we'll go to Lieutenant Colonel Callender.
Hey, so I think one thing that's really key to wellness and sustaining it or getting back to it is the easy accessibility of care, because the earlier we can get somebody the assistance that they need, the more likely we are to be able to intervene more effectively, and the quicker they feel better. And so one of the things that DHA and the services have really been trying to develop, as I mentioned before, those telebehavioral health capabilities. And there's a new one, it's relatively new, called Doctor on Demand. And I want to emphasize it's Doctor Singular on Demand. And the website is actually doctorondemand.com, all one word. And this resource is another telebehavioral health resource. All you have to do is go to the site, register, and it identifies that you're a TRICARE beneficiary. And for our spouses and dependent family members, there's no referral needed. So you can just go online and get connected that way. Our active duty members do need a referral, but we do have ways for them to utilize that resource as well. So again, that expansion of telebehavioral health services to make the accessibility of care easier is definitely one thing that we are really trying to foster. The other thing is, you know, there's such a wealth of amazing smartphone apps out there, and they offer such a wide variety of tools. And the thing that you want to look for with a smartphone app is its tracking mechanism. Does it allow you to kind of monitor your progress? Also, does it give you reminders to do things? Because in the midst of a busy, chaotic day, sometimes we completely forget, oh, what was this other thing I was working on? What was this strategy that I was supposed to apply? But if you have a little gentle reminder from your phone, you're more likely to remember that and to actually follow through with that, which can really help facilitate change. So again, Doctor on Demand is one resource that we feel like is very helpful to people. And then also those smartphone apps, looking for things that allow you to track and monitor your progress and give you reminders on a day-to-day basis on things to apply.
Perfect, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that. Ms. Smith, I'm going to talk about your current or recent initiatives.
Yes, so within the Military and Family Life Counseling Program, over the last year, we spent quite a bit of time training our MFLACs in a new tool called the Relationship Checkup. We have learned across military, community, family policy that the top reason that people seek non-medical counseling is for relationship challenges. And so we wanted to put some prevention and intervention tools in place that would really get at the challenge of relationship stressors that couples were facing. And so if you schedule a session with your military and family life counselor, they will possibly offer the option of having a relationship checkup. Now, I like this tool because it's very similar to like the wellness check that you go to every year or your well baby checks that you take your children to. It's very quick. You are answering, assessment, so to say. I use that term very loosely, but assessment of how your relationship is doing. Both the spouse and the service member answer the questions, and then you get a printout that your MFLAC will go over with you just to kind of get a pulse check on how things are going within your relationship. And so it literally is a relationship checkup. And so from that point, after both parties answer their questions, they can have a couple of sessions with their MFLAC, or if they're not in a space where they need non-medical counseling, they may be referred to another resource at the installation, or possibly through Military One Source or a community-based resource. And so we like having that as an option for couples that are wanting to kind of get a pulse check and see how things are happening or going within their relationship. So the relationship checkup is an awesome tool. Our MFLACs love it. Couples have reported that they love it. So I wanted to share a link in the chat on some of the other relationship support resources we have through the Military and Family Life Counseling Program, as well as the Military One Source. So relationship checkup. If you haven't heard of it, please reach out to your MFLAC and ask them about it. It's nice and easy. It's not scary to do, but allows kind of to give you a roadmap on areas for to work on your relationship.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ma'am. Miss Aldana, we'll pull that slide back up for you.
This is my favorite slide. I know the questions like things that people don't know about. A lot of times people hear, oh, Military One Source, all the things. But even when I worked in my positions before as community support, I didn't know about all the things that Military One Source does. So when you look at this little wheel, I always kind of liken it to, there's a quote that says, we can't keep pulling people out of the water. We have to go upstream and figure out where they're falling in. But more than that, we have to learn how to swim, because I can't stop all the adversity. I can't stop TDYs and crazy schedules, but we can learn how to swim, and we can give people the tools to kind of learn how to swim. So that's giving people the tools for that financial counseling, not just MilTax. We have wonderful MilTax, no cost to our military members, but also, hey, let's learn how to budget. Let's learn how to pay down our debt, because that's a stressor. Let's learn about communication. And one of the things that we talked about at the very beginning with that survey, that health and wellness coaching. We offer no cost health and wellness coaching. Your service members, family members will connect with the health and wellness coach and to help you with your health and wellness goals. They can offer support in different areas. So that could be weight management, fitness, nutrition, to stress management, and just like life transitions to help you through that. There's things that, hey, when I was at Oconus, I didn't know I can call Military One Source and just get document translation. I was like, I would have loved to have language interpretation. Or as KeySpouses, if you have a spouse that speaks a second language, how great it is to be able to be inclusive and be able to get documents translated to make sure that when we send things out, everyone feels included. I didn't know we had those things until I worked here, and it's really great to be able to have those different programs for elder care and being able to help our service members and their families find, assisted living care for their family members as they're transitioning. We really just want to be able to take things off people's plates and make things less stressful, because we know military life can be stressful and it can be hard. But when we're doing okay, we're not out of the water, it's a great time to learn how to swim and get help early and often, and help you be the best version of yourself, whatever the best looks like that day, and have these different wellness programs or financial, or how to build relationships or communicate with people. Relationships doesn't just mean romantic. So just how to communicate with coworkers or other friends. Things can be weird, like we know that, and we're here for you to help you navigate those things. When you call Military One Source, you're going to talk to someone who's a master level social sciences background, so they're trained to be able to ask the right questions to get you the help that you need. So we just want you to be your best version of yourself and learn how to swim before you get in that water. And that way, when you fall into that water, fall into that adversity, you can just swim back to shore and you'll be all right. And we just want you to be your best versions of yourself. So if you guys see this, take a screenshot of this chart. It's my favorite. I mean, you don't have to. I would encourage you to.
Thank you, ma'am. I think someone also posted a link to it in the chat. So thank you for doing that. I also see a question about resources for veterans. So does Military One Source provide all of those resources on that wheel to veterans as well?
all of the things that is on the wheel, I call it wheel of services, Zen slide, range of support slide, is for our transitioning veterans for an entire year after date of separation, not retired, anyone separated from the day that you separate, not the first day of terminal leave. Like, you get to use it for a whole year, so 365 days, because we all know it takes a little time to get into new normals, and we want to make sure everyone has that support. So everything that's there, everything that you enjoy as active duty reserve, the reserve and National Guard can use ours as well. Like, it does not matter about activation status. And I know sometimes there's some restrictions with some of the things that we have, but if you're serving our country, we're serving you. We got you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Next, we'll go to Lieutenant Colonel Snyder to tell us all about maybe a recent initiative or lesser known opportunities that can help with people's wellness.
I'm actually going to really reiterate and mention a lot of the things that have really already been discussed. Because one of the things that we find throughout health promotion and wellness is that education or knowledge doesn't necessarily equal behavior change or action. And so a lot of these resources that Lieutenant Colonel Callender mentioned and Ms. Aldana mentioned, from the different types of tracking apps and using different, various, tracking your sleep or tracking your fitness and your activity. And then one of the top things that we actually are referring people to is really health coaching. And that's what we're really finding is that it's not typically a lack of knowledge. It's how do you then create and make those behaviors. I mean, as a registered dietitian, I have a wide knowledge of what the impact of diet and exercise, etc. But everyone has the same struggles with actually taking action on those, and it's really finding that meeting people where they are, and then really finding ways that will help you to motivate you to make those changes and to keep you on track. And then if you do fall off, just getting back on and not completely giving up and being resilient even to that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Chaplain Merrifield, we know you got those thoughts. You told us you always do, so let's hear them.
I do. I'm so excited. I'm going to do some name dropping because spouses in your units out in the deltas are going to hear about something called GRIT, Guardian Resiliency Teams, that are out in the units embedded with other wellness programs. True North is another program that you'll hear about from your spouses. There's an exciting pilot program going on right now, integrated response co-location, bringing agencies together under one roof to help with sexual assault, domestic violence, cyberbullying, and I'll just land on two more. In particular, the chapel runs this initiative called Strong Bonds. Strong Bonds is really one of the most exciting things because we've trained all of our members of our chaplain corps to conduct several courses within this portfolio designed to really enhance professional development, increase unity of the team, strengthen family structures, relationships, singles, couples, families, and those are all coming online this year with some good funding. And there'll be an opportunity to do retreats paid for by the chapel. Lastly, there's something called the White Rope Program that a lot of the airmen in our squadrons may be used to going through basic training, tech school, where they become chapel volunteers. But it's not only a spiritual thing, they're doing outreach into the community. It's really trying to get people to thrive in the dorms, forging outreach. All these things get me excited for the way forward. I truly believe they're going to make lasting impacts. So that's what I have to say about that.
Great thoughts, Chaplain Merrifield. Thank you so much. Dr. Perkins, we lost you just when you were about to reveal some very profound and earth-shattering information. So here's your chance to circle back and share that with us.
I am so sorry. You gotta love when your computer decides it's time to restart after install, right? So great times. But I heard that Master Sergeant Anthony picked up the ball right when I dropped it. So this is a perfect example of having a good battle or a good wingman, because man, he did it. And then the chaplain literally listed the things that I would say too, right? Chaplain in there together. I love it. And the last I would probably mention is Connect to Care. So I'm not sure if people have heard about this. It's formerly known as No Wrong Door, right? So basically what it means is if you walk in any door, whether it be the right door or the wrong door, the person that you're going to see is going to make sure that you get actually to the right door. So there is no wrong door, but we're calling it Connect to Care. So for instance, Ms. Perkins, if you came into my office and you wanted financial advice, I don't do financial advice outside of my own home anyway. So I would then send you to whoever the financial advisor is, right? So there you wouldn't have to worry about, well, where do I go and what do I do? I have a list of providers that I can send you to, much like our spectrum of resilience, that'll get you to the right door. So thus there is no wrong door. We are connecting to the care people that need to be connected. So other than that, I listened to the team members and I think you can definitely see an overlap here, but it's a good overlap of our services, right? So clearly we are doing our best to take care of airmen and guardians, their families, civilians, as I like to say, lottie-dottie, everybody, right?
Thank you so much, ma'am. We're actually ending a little bit early, which is astonishing. I was very worried we were going to be running late. So let me just peruse the chat here to see what people have to say. Was that connect to care, correct? That's the, yep. So that is the resource there, Miss Sanders. There is a question in the chat from Miss Luna Bland. She has a friend whose husband is about to join the military in a few months. I already see some head nods. She needs help with resources. Can she use Military OneSource if she does not yet have her ID card?
You can call Military OneSource. Our triage consultant will connect her with either military or community-based resources. So it's always, we also have a no, wrong door policy as well. No matter who calls, if you're outside of the 365 days and you just kind of just know our number and you're used to using us, or you haven't quite got in, you're about to, you can call us. We're going to make sure to connect you to the military resources that we know about or the community resources that are located where you are at. So we're never going to be like, not us, no thanks. We're going to be like, of course, let me help you. Let me get you to the right place. Here are a list of other resources that I know will be able to help you out. Any other? Wait.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a question about wait list. So can you talk about availability of those resources? It can be very frustrating when a family member needs help, but there is a wait list. So the floor is open.
So I'll talk a little bit from the mental health standpoint, because obviously we have increasing demand over time and a limited number of providers and other personnel who can see patients. One of the initiatives we're incorporating to try to alleviate some of those access issues is called targeted care. And when it involves basically connecting people to the most appropriate resource for them, because a lot of times people will come into mental health, but their issues actually may be perfectly appropriate and better suited to the MFLAG, for example. And so when we can connect them to those other resources that are better suited to their needs, we free up the appointments in the mental health clinic to make those resources more available to others.
Yes, ma'am. And I would argue that that's why key spouses are so important, to make sure that we're kind of channeling folks to the service or the representative that can best help meet their needs of where they are at today. So that's a great point. Thank you. All right. Well, I will say that if we could just have each one of these lovely people give us like a morning pep talk when we start our day, I think that that would make us have a wonderful, wonderful outlook for the day. So appreciate you all for taking the time to be here with us today. Not only is your information that you provided fabulous to hear, but you can also see kind of your passion for it, and that you truly have a heart to help people. So let's go ahead and give all of our teammates here today working to provide us resources and opportunities to increase our wellness a Zoom clap, round of applause. Thank you so much. And then as promised, we're going to take a quick break and we'll take, well, I think we're on track now. So about 6 minutes, we'll come back and we'll start our next session.